Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Weekly Spark. In the videos this month, I've been working with gesso, and I've used it in different ways with ink and with brusho crystals and with some water-soluble crayons, adding texture, adding color, adding layers to the page. And this week, I'm actually using it a bit more like its intended purpose. I'm going to be using it white and as a layer, kind of a substrate, inside this collage before I put more layers down. So what I've started with, this is just a small page from my 3-ring binder, and I've started with this dictionary page. And although it's hard to see here, sprightly and spring were the two words that were circled. This is the spring equinox, and so my theme for the day really is inspired by that, with spring, perhaps a rabbit, and definitely some florals. So I'm going to be applying gesso with a old key card, like I often do. I like the broad gestural marks that I get from this, but gesso in this instance is literally covering up the first collage layer that I put down. Yet it's not so completely opaque. Spread on like this, you get broken areas, you get nice texture, you get some words peeking through. So it gives me some of the layering that I like, and it gives me some depth. Now, if I'd wanted to be more precise going around this, circle that I was trying to preserve, yeah, I could have grabbed a brush. But for this first layer, I didn't really have any plans, and I just wanted to get some gesso on the page. So I am gluing things down with matte gel medium, and the gesso is not dry yet. I was working pretty quickly and pretty intuitively on this page, and so I was just going with the flow. I didn't really want to wait for it to dry. I've found that the heat gun on the gesso sometimes makes it bubble up a little bit, so I usually am patient. Today, not so much. Trying very hard to not drag my gel medium brush into the wet gesso, as I'm going to go over this hair image, and I didn't want to obscure it. So let me speed up this section while I cut out some hellebores. I recently had a friend give me a couple milk crates filled with magazines, and I think I'm just in heaven. So many different options and so many different ideas. You may actually have seen some of those in my Instagram pictures as I'm doing the 100-day project. Oh, while I'm talking, I will take this chance to say, please feel free to like this video or subscribe to this channel. That is what it's all about, kind of building community here on YouTube, and I would love to have you stay tuned for the rest of this video, of course, but for other episodes of Weekly Spark and other content coming soon to my channel. So, for now, let me speed this up and get on to the next part of the collage. All right, I have an assortment of stencils, kind of different floral patterns. I have those little foam fingertip things, whatever those are called. They're so useful. And I have some small, colorful archival ink pads. Again, things are pretty dry, but not completely dry. So, should I have stopped and made myself a cup of coffee? Possibly. But again, I was just going for it. This flower stencil doesn't turn out quite as precise as I wanted it to, but I can go back into that with some pencil. I love using the stamp pads and the little fingertip daubers because to me it seems so much more accessible when I'm kind of in the flow and just working on a quick page to use these. They're ready-made, just go ahead, stamp, stencil, instead of putting out acrylic paint, instead of selecting my paint colors and putting out the acrylic paint and stenciling. So are the results different? Yes, this is a lot less bold. I can't really make this opaque like I could with acrylic paint, but it does work to put in some pattern in places where I want the pattern. And if it's quick and it keeps me from having a speed bump in my creative process, keeps me from getting hung up, then that's great. I highly recommend it. Days that I already have paint out, I really almost prefer acrylic paint and a stencil, but I don't have paint out every day. So, whatever works. So in the article that I found the pictures of the hellebores, I also found the phrase spring, the season has arrived. And there were extra words in there that I cut out, but that's what I selected that I wanted to incorporate into this page. Adding a little bit more gesso to cover up some of the dictionary text that was, taking attention away from the words that I had circled. And I think next I will go back into that flower in the bottom left, maybe with some marker, maybe with my wax pencil, just to try and bring out the petals a little bit. And now we get to the final touches. I wanted to add a little extra color. There was a lot of white, and so I'm using some Ranger ink distress sprays. I have some pale blues and pale greens that felt definitely like a spring palette to me. And just using my hand or the paper towel to kind of shield parts of the collage so I'm not getting overspray on top of everything. I'm going to go in with a couple different colors in different areas, greens, even some kind of peachy pink. And I think that'll probably do the trick. So I'm working on very, very inexpensive watercolor paper that I think I got a large pad of it at Walmart, and I'd hole punched this. It's the right size to fit in a 3-ring binder planner that I've repurposed as a sketchbook. So I should have heated the tape before I pulled it up, heated it with the heat gun to kind of loosen the adhesive because it is tearing up the surface of the page quite a bit. I also have some collage areas that have gone past the tape border, so I've got to trim them, and the paper's a little bit wet. Did I mention that I was kind of working in the flow this week and not taking time to let things dry? Yeah, I thought I did. So, not perfect, not frameable, hugely fun, and I think something that was perfectly appropriate for this cold but spring day, welcoming spring in with some symbols of the season. Just a close-up to show you how that text does come through that gesso and to give you an idea of some of that splatter that was my final layer.